Is a shed a substitute for something never had? A replacement mother or a flat-pack dad? Was it where we tasted our first amazing kiss, or where our obsessions culminate in bliss?
The humble shed. For generations, men have retired there to pot plants, repair lawnmowers, and perhaps escape her indoors.
First shed I ever remember was in our shop in Callan, County Kilkenny, in the backyard. It was actually a toilet shed.
A shed? I had my own shed at home, and I used to create drama in the shed with the young people on the road.
First shed was one that fell down on top of me, actually. An old rotten shed when I was a young fella.
The word shed was first recorded in 1481 and was written down by a printer called William Caxton. Back then the word shed was spelt shade, a place of retreat from the world. Today, the modern shed is still a place to get away from the world and relax. Many famous people, especially writers, have been associated with sheds. Roald Dahl, Dylan Thomas and George Bernard Shaw.
This is the hut where Bernard Shaw does his writing. Shaw has said that if he could live another 100 years, he might start as a junior civil servant and end as a cabinet minister. If he did, this is the hut from which he would rule the country.
Recently, a new development in men's health has led to the establishing of the Men's Shed movement.
I work with Limerick City Community Development Project, and we would have been always interested in trying to work with men, because in community work you often get women involved at different levels, but very hard to actually engage with men. And one of the pieces was around kind of a space for men to meet. Community centres, family resource centres, they were seen as female spaces.
If you weren't involved in the yeah, even if you weren't involved in the vote.
My name is Adrian Hogan, and I've been involved in the Men's Shed now roughly 4 years. I retired in 2011, and I was going down that slippery road of depression. And I was just having a chat with the son. I says to the son, like, you know what I mean, I'll have to get out and do something.
Isolation is a massive thing. Like, you know, people being isolated. Like, there's a man here, he's lost his wife there recently, and he's been isolated for the last year and a half. And it was just, he took the one step to come through the door. And to be honest, we can't get rid of him now.
The reason I got involved was because I suppose my wife died in the last 12 months, and I found it very lonesome. I really had no place or nothing to look forward to until I heard of the Men's Shed. And now I'm actually delighted I did get involved.
Coming down here, meeting with other lads, has been a great help.
Because I find there's a lot of wave outings and different games and visits to the UL, to the swimming pool. And I just thought, as an old fellow like myself, I wouldn't be doing those mad things like in the swimming pool. I found it very beneficial to me and to my health, and at least I might get a bit slimmer than I am.
I'm bored at home, and all I'm doing all day is walking all over town, And also I was kind of getting sick then as well, I a lot of health issues.
Well, organising in social activities, there's a lot of work that goes into it. We do pitch and putt, we do the cinema, but basically what we try to do is keep the cost down as low as possible. So what we do is we probably, with the Men's Shed, they might pay for the event and we pay for the food afterwards. We often leave the men organise it themselves. So basically whatever they come up with, and if it's doable, we'll do it.
Well, we did some cooking. We had a bake-off there yesterday, up in St. Enda's, and the chef here in the centre gave us some hints on how to do it,
It's one thing to bring men together. If you've got a project that they can work on, then it seems to work much better.
Why I got involved in the movement was I lost two brothers within a short space of time, and I felt that if they had a place such as this to go to, they could have spoke to someone about how they were feeling and how their health was.
Our patron is actually President D. Higgins, which myself and Paul represented the St Mary's Men's Shed above in the Helix Centre in Dublin when the grand opening of the Men's Sheds of Ireland, we'll say, started up there with President D.
It's set up as a place for men to go, to meet like-minded men and to do projects, not just for unemployment, but for health reasons, and just for men, a place where men can go and talk.
Well, if you're working away with the lads, something on your head, you'll talk to them. Do you know what I'm saying? If you're working away doing something, you know, you mention something, then they mention something else to you, and it goes on from there. So you know, you get that bit of solace, I suppose, out of it at the end of the day.
Like, we have boats down here. Kieran has a big boat down here. We're on the river every summer, and soon enough now, you might have heard us, we're going to build a hut up in, you ever see the huts in Plassey? Well, I have the permission to build a hut up there, so we're going doing it this year. So we'll be up there the whole time. I'm a welder by trade. I worked in speed line for 15 years, and I could show them my trade, like, you know. And if we could stop one suicide a week, wouldn't that help, like, you know?
By developing their confidence, developing their social skills, that all leads to the potential of people getting more involved in a whole range of actions and activities.
Do you know what we can do? Put it on and we can drill up through it.
We're in existence maybe 3 or 4 years approximately. I got involved when some of my friends asked me to build a boat, so I went to up to the old Crupps building up near the South Hill estate, and there was a crowd up there and they were building boats. So I asked if they'd allow us to build one angling cot. They're a modern derivative of what was called the Burcon, and they were used on the upper reaches of the Shannon where it was really very shallow and a lower draft of a boat was need to be used. We were kind of looking at other ideas of what to do, so we basically got into the ideas of using waste pallets and making some garden furniture, and I also make a couple of miniature angling cots, and we've had a couple of people die that are from the river or of the river, and we tried to give them or their families a little replica angling cot that they can put with their coffin, kind of harken back to the Viking idea of giving them a boat to cross any river that they come across in their new journey.
The men have learned a lot of new skills, including partaking in the 1 or 2 trips we have with our boats. They've learned how to become proficient boatmen. They've also learned specific skills as regards timber work, simple things that you might have to get. They might have had to get somebody else in, a professional in to do before. Now they can do the DIY jobs at home themselves.
You are under a lot of strain, but Irish people, I feel, just don't tend to address it. But I think really that what all this has done to me. I mean, I had the whole thing happen to me. I lost my business. My mother lives with me. She's getting very old, so I had to kind of mind her. And then I suffered a heart attack, and then I went on to have a quadruple bypass. And I have to say, since the Celtic Tiger ended in 2008, I've been through the mill, but I'm still here. And it's things like this that keep you driven and give you a chance to forget about your problems, and let you just gives you a chance to
to ground yourself again and just forget about life for 2 or 3 hours once a week, once or twice a week. It has an effect that when you come in here and when you get a group that are interested in what they're doing, I mean, you don't have to be able to do work. You can sweep the floor, you can sit in the corner and you can tell jokes. You can just be there and just be part of the crack. It's just a bit of time where you're not down in the pub and you're getting a chance to converse and have a bit of crack. And it doesn't matter if you never built anything, just as long as you're here for a couple of hours and you're forgetting about your problems and the things you have to deal with in general life.
Of course, sheds are used for many activities, and we visited a number of sheds where their owners carry out some unexpected pursuits.
The course started here in the School of Music, as I said, in 1975, and it was in the bicycle shed as a violin making class only. I took over in 1982 from Dr. Nash, and it became an instrument making course then. For example, guitars, mandolins, harps and so on. We are now back in the School of Music in a custom-made workshop come shed.
I got involved because I play an instrument. I always played music, and I play guitar. But when we came in here, you had to make a fiddle first. So I've made a fiddle and the guitar.
It's not required that you're able to play an instrument, no. Some people do. A lot of people come with backgrounds with playing guitar, violin and so on.
I think that, you know, when you make an instrument yourself and you can play it, it's an awful lot of, you know, I feel very, how do you say, fulfilled.
I think everyone gains more than just the skills of instrument making. It becomes a social club and friendships are built up.
You can feel the instrument, you can feel what you've done in the instrument, the love you have to put into the instrument. I think that it's part of yourself, you know, when you've made the instrument, it's part of yourself, you know.
Some of the, say, more senior students would keep them for either their children or grandchildren and so on.
Hopefully we might make a bow on sometime.
My earliest experience of sheds, I suppose, comes from my grandfather's, and neither of them threw anything away. So you ended up naturally with a shed full of junk. And to a child, it was an Aladdin's cave. All sorts of treasures in the shed. The shed was always associated with things that were important, things that you needed for everyday use, things that you stored for indefinite periods. In the event of they ever be needed in the future, or whether they might have a value in the future, or definitely they were of an interest. My interest in cars and vintage cars, or cars generally, I didn't start out with an interest in vintage cars. The Porsche which I mostly drive was probably the last of the hand-built cars. Well, the only one with a bit of a computer in it is that Honda Beat. And that was the last car made by Hiroshi Honda. That was the final car the founder of Honda made. Keeping a car in a shed is a must really, because the weather conditions in Ireland is really what devalues most people's cars.
There's a museum in Ireland, none rarer you'll find. It's a pleasure to go there and trace back your mind.
It started off very small, so I purchased a few bits and pieces, brought them home, tidied them up and tried to bring them back to their former glory, and kind of stood back and looked at them, and I had only 5 or 6 different pieces in the shed. It's a big shed, and I had one little corner, and it kind of developed from there, and as the more stuff that came, we had to make a bit more room, because this shed was becoming a museum slowly but surely.
The type of visitors we get here, we every kind really, you know, just ordinary people, some city people, country people, and some tourists. And we've had actually a famous person here last couple of years ago, Thomas Fitzgerald, cousin of the late John F. Kennedy. We've had a couple of schools have come here, and actually in the bar here, when they came into the bar, they were looking at the counter and they saw these ashtrays and they were asking, what are these for? So like they would have been in the bars, but since the smoking ban came in, the ashtrays were gone, so they wouldn't have known what an ashtray was. There are kids there, like, I mean, they would never have seen a telephone box. And it's a pity that they have been torn down all over the country, because it would be nice just to explain, we had to cycle to the village to make a phone call. Really why we're collecting this stuff is to preserve the past for the future generations.
Trace back your mind with memories and visions of your bygone days. You will have a great time here in old Irish way.
A shed may seem something of minimal importance in today's world, but if the health experts are to be believed, every man should have one. Whether it be to make things with their bare hands, write that novel, or just gathering with other men for a cup of tea and a chat. The shed is not just part of our homes, but also a part of our culture. It seems that this historical structure, which has survived and evolved, is still an essential product in modern times.
It's empty in the valley of your heart. The sun, it rises slowly as you walk away from all the fears and all the faults you've left behind. But I will hold on hope, and I'll find strength in pain, and I will change my ways. I'll know my